Good evening, everyone, and Merry Christmas to you. I will call the Thursday, December the 19th, 2019 meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you all for coming tonight, and we're very honored to have Pastor Titus O'Brien, who's the Executive Pastor of Grace Fellowship Church, to say our invocation. If you would stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Thank you. Let's pray. Lord, you're the sovereign God over everything, the creator of all the earth, and you've gifted us uniquely with creativity and skills to be part of your work in your world. And we thank you for the opportunities that we have to use these gifts, and we ask you for wisdom and energy as we engage in our work. We're thankful for those who are serving our community to create new opportunities for growth as we steward your good gifts and resources, and we ask you to provide wisdom as we keep looking to you for guidance. Help us all to bring the qualities of your kingdom, peace and justice and joy, into our city and our community as we use our gifts to glorify you. We ask all of this humbly in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please face the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
First order of business is consideration of your minutes on the from the meeting held on Thursday, December 5th.
Commissioner, I will tell the crowd who's here tonight, there are only three of us here tonight. We've kind of rearranged the commission if it looks a little bit different for you tonight. But anyway, being the holidays, we have some who are out of town. So I think we need a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
And Mayor Brock.
Yes.
This will go much faster.
It's going to be fast tonight.
Yes, it will.
At this time, if I could ask Pat Kidd to please come forward for a retirement resolution.
Are you sure you want to do this? Well, Pat, I know you have some friends here, some who are already retired who've come back to be with you tonight, so we want to welcome them here to the City Commission meeting. Sure you want to do this? I don't have to read this, or I don't have to accept it, right? Okay. Whereas Pat Kidd began her career with the City of Johnson City in Water and Sewer Services as account clerk on March 5th, 1979. And whereas a year later, she was promoted to Secretary 2 in Public Works Administration, a position she held until being named the city's office manager under the Street Division. And whereas in this role, Pat has served our community in a crucial way, ensuring that all citizens' concerns are heard and handled with care, and creating the first statistical description of Public Works tasks and the first zero-based budget for the department. And whereas she was named the first outstanding team member in 2004 based on her deep understanding of the organization and a strong work ethic to provide the best customer service to the public. And whereas Pat has made many lasting contributions to our community and will always symbolize what municipal government is all about. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Johnson City upon this date of December 19, 2019 retirement, that Pat Kidd is officially commended for her distinguished service and dedication to our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Pat Kidd along with well wishes in all of her future endeavors. So Pat, first of all, thank you so much for the many, many years of service you've given to this city. And I know the citizens of Johnson City always appreciate how you showed them they were the most important thing when you took their call. So thank you very much. And I think Mr. Peterson wants to say something, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Pat, you do realize that Charlie coached me on what to say here. You're in deep trouble. Wow, I never really thought I'd ever see this day. Pat and I went to school together. Pat's a couple years behind me in high school, and she came to work here when she was 12. Obviously, somehow I aged much quicker than you. I'm not sure what caused that. But, for everybody that has ever called wanting their leaves picked up or want to know why their storm drain was stopped up, or those guys forgot my trash, no, you need to talk to Kathy Harsh. That's not my deal. You've talked to Pat Kidd. I guarantee you that of the 65,000 people that live in this community, that probably 40,000 of us have talked to Pat on the phone at some point in time or another. Most of the calls that you get probably aren't complimentary in nature because somebody has a problem they need fixed day before yesterday. And Pat always answers the phone with a happy voice, with positive attitude, and I guarantee she gets it solved, and she gets it solved that day. I mean, if there is one person that delivers the customer service that every employer dreams of, it's Pat Kidd. I mean, you really have been it for more than 10 years now. I won't say exactly how long. But we're all, and I say that, and all of the employees know Pat. I would venture to say there are less than 100 of our 1,000 employees that don't know Pat in some capacity or another. She's one of those go-to people. If you got a problem, even if it doesn't involve Public Works, call Pat. She'll tell you who to talk to get it fixed. You've just been one of those go-to people, and it's just really going to be hard to replace you.
Well, thank you.
I really mean that. You have been so much to this organization and the people you work with. Pat, for years, kept the employee scholarship fund going. It's a fund where the employees donate money that goes to college scholarships for other employees. You'd always get a phone call or a letter or something from Pat. Hey, we're collecting money for the employee scholarship fund. This was long before her kids were in college, or now that you almost have both of them out of college. We're getting close. So for many, many years of unquestioned loyalty and dedication and a positive attitude and a wonderful friend,
Thank you, Pete.
we're really going to miss you.
Well, thank you.
And
I'll be a citizen now
you'll be.
with a cell phone.
I think I just heard I need to change my phone number. So on behalf of the commission and the staff and your coworkers and all the people that you have served without question in a very admirable way for the last 40 years, Pat, a huge thank you for all you've meant to all of us, and may you enjoy 40 more years of good times and aggravation, and just because you're retired, don't let Charlie Harmon quit mowing your yard. He needs something to do. So
Well,
congratulations.
thank you.
I'm gonna,
Thank
hold
you.
on. Mr. Penzola, I was looking for you in the room, and I didn't see you sitting over here, which is odd, so please come up here. You're the Director of Public Works, so please come up, and I know you've got a couple of things to say here.
Well, Pat, I just came up here to see if you're going to start crying. You know, if you look around the room, you'll see some folks here like Joy and Nancy, and Kathy, Charlie, folks like that, a lot of friends. And as you know, organizations aren't innate objects, they're actually made of people. And because of that, as I've mentioned earlier today, because of that, that's what it's all about life. And life itself isn't about the number of breaths you take, but rather the number of moments that take your breath away. And so here's a fitting tribute to one of the most trustworthy people that I've had on staff. And we've worked together for 36 years, 37 years.
And every time Pat would hand me something to sign, I didn't have to look at it. And trust is a big deal. And that's what we, and every other department head, and Pete, that's what we try to foster in this organization. It's the trust, it's the people, it's the moments that take your breath away. You've had a lot of moments, and what we do hope is that you add to those during your retirement and don't make yourself scarce. We got plenty for you to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, I've enjoyed my 40 years, and it couldn't have been better, and I've just enjoyed Phil and Pete, and they had a reception for me, and it was very humbling, very humbling, and I'll just never forget it. It's been a great ride. Thank you.
Let me present you with this.
Thank you.
Get a picture right there, Phil. Good luck to you.
Thanks, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll say those things later.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Peterson?
Your next order of business is consideration of a certificate of compliance for a retail package store for Liquor World of Johnson City, located at 308 North Broadway. This is a certificate of compliance. You are mainly just verifying that this person and this firm is eligible for a liquor license to be issued by the state of Tennessee.
And the applicant does not have to be
They do
present for
not.
that, and it is the recommendation of the staff. So we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next is a beer license application for Little Animals Brewery LLC to be located at 324 East Main Street. This is a Class 5 manufacturer retail beer license. The property is appropriately zoned. The reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors, and the recommendation is for your approval.
Okay, is the applicant present, please? Come on up, please. If you would just state your name and address at the podium.
My name is Chris Cates, 324 East Main Street, located downtown.
Very good. Have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of alcohol in Johnson City?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you agree to abide by those?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Commissioners?
Move approval. Second.
All right, any other questions?
Is that what we're going to do? I'll make all the motions. You second all of them? Okay.
My head's going to be totally swirling here. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about your business? And you're on TV, a lot of people watching.
Okay. Well, we aim to open a brewery and tap room downtown on the corner of Colonial and Main, focusing and specializing in farmhouse-style barrel-aged sour beers. It's going to be something different for everyone and really cool.
Well, I'll have to tell you, I'm on the Animal Control Board, and when I first saw this, I thought, we're going to open a brewery in the animal shelter. So,
We get that a lot.
found out it's not, but thank y'all for coming downtown and for your investment in the economy of Johnson City. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything to pull?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to pull, Mr. Peterson, A1, just for an update for the public on that. And I have one other here. That's it, A1.
Mr. Dixon, if you could come up, Mr. Miller, and give us a review of the Community Learning Center grant for the Langston Center.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor,
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Peterson. The Langston Center in the city of Johnson City, very glad that we received a grant, $103,000, that will cover certainly 3 years, and after 3 years of positive compliance, we have the opportunity to get an additional 2 years. So 5-year grant, $103,000 per year, that will focus on STEAM education at the Langston Center. And so we're very excited about this opportunity. We have a mandate by the state to have 76 individuals in this program. And so we are very eager and excited, beginning January 7th, the first full day of schools post-holidays, to engage in an aggressive marketing effort to get young people to the Langston Center to engage in STEAM education. East Tennessee State University has been an outstanding partner, collaborator with us, and so we have a program of activities slated. Also, UT Ag Extension, as well as Hands-On Museum, 3 different entities that are very willing to work with us, and we're excited. And we think this is a great opportunity to particularly expose science, technology, engineering, arts, and math to low-income, underserved young people in the surrounding community. So it's a great opportunity.
And the grant will help with some staffing or teachers that will come over and do some of these classes?
Yes, ma'am. The grant does fund 4 particular positions. 1 is a program coordinator, and then 3 respective teachers to cover grades 3 through 8. And so, and also there's funding to stipends for what the grant calls program liaisons, which are teachers, 1 teacher at each of the 4 feeder schools, Mountain View, Northside, Liberty Bell, and Indian Trail.
So we're working very closely with the school system.
And the school system has been a great partner.
Right.
Dr. Barnett, Dr. Bentley have been great to work with.
Could you also, while you've got the microphone, we don't have basketball goals over at the Langston Center. Would you mind just sharing with the public what the purpose and the vision of Langston is, what it will be doing for our young people and adults in our community?
Mayor, I tell people that if the Langston Center had an athletic component, I certainly wouldn't have been hired as a supervisor. So the Langston Center is a cultural arts facility. And so we have 3 respective goals that we wish to fulfill: education, arts, and leadership. When Mr. Peterson, yourself, Dr. Van Brocklin were meeting with the Langston Education Arts Development Group, they had a focus on arts and education. And so we certainly want to fulfill and honor their vision. And so we certainly want to address multicultural arts. We want to expose, again, low-income, underserved youth to opportunities that come from education. And the third area that we would like to address is leadership, and the idea of working with different sectors of our community and encouraging them to be engaged and to be full participants in the community. And so again, education, arts, and leadership.
Exciting. Mr. Miller, you want to add anything to that?
I believe Mr. Dixon has covered all bases. I don't believe I could say it better myself. I will say that there have been several meetings that have taken place with ETSU and different groups to form those partnerships, and we're very pleased with the community's support for Langston. It's been incredible. We're actually in a very unique position where we're trying to sift through the many great ideas that the community has brought to us, and it's going to be incredible.
It's a wonderful location for meetings. People can actually come and have community meetings there, can rent space and have events there as well. It's a great building, and I mean, we've only had it open, what, 2 months now, or less than?
Next week will be a month.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
How time flies.
Yes, ma'am.
But I know y'all are working hard to get it ramped up, and then making sure, talking about how we get our children there, get transportation and all that, so I know you're on it. We appreciate it so much. Give us a call when you have something unique you want us to come over and see. I can't wait to see the recording studio in full gear.
Mr. Smith is very excited as well, James Smith. And of course, we have our equipment in there, and so we're very eager to get that off the ground as well.
And so young children will learn how to do podcasts, they'll learn how to write music and record it, edit and produce it.
That's exactly right.
And they wind up on something they really love to do, but with a skill.
That's exactly right. Yes,
Perhaps
ma'am.
employment somewhere down the
Yes,
road
ma'am.
with that.
And it's, the neat thing about it is that folks like Mr. Smith have done their research, and there are different programs in urban areas across the country that focus on this particular skill or task. And so to have it here in Northeast Tennessee, hopefully this will be a way to connect with our youth and, as you said, learn a skill and to be marketable.
So Commissioners, next year when we record our Christmas song together, we'll take all the commission over. We'll get our headphones on and we'll sing into the microphone.
I think I'm busy that night. Pretty sure I'm busy.
Very good. Well, thank y'all for coming and informing us. We
Thank you,
appreciate
ma'am.
it.
Thank you.
Your next order of business.
We have to
I'm
pass the
sorry.
consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Your next order of business is ordinance number 4722-19. An ordinance authorizing a contract for the exchange of real estate with the First Presbyterian Church of Johnson City of certain parcels of real property owned by the City of Johnson City and located in the 9th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, upon the terms and conditions contained herein, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, ready for your consideration on first reading.
And you might just go ahead and, I see First
Phil?
Christian Pastor is here, but just kind of for the public, where this is located, why we're doing this.
Christian. First starters.
First Presbyterian. Sorry, I was looking at Larry
This is
here.
a land swap property that the city purchased that was adjacent to the Presbyterian Church and the river. If people know where the river is. And it's a rock area right across from the parking lot between Main and Market Street. So it's located off of Main Street. The property being conveyed from the church is the lot directly across from the Founders Pavilion next to the Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever it's called. That will add additional public parking, even though the public has been using it. We'll upgrade the lot, get it fixed, should add about 40 spaces to the inventory.
Okay,
Move approval.
Second.
and second, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you.
Your next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4723-19. An ordinance to designate the boundaries of a regional retail and tourism development district in the city of Johnson City pursuant to the authority granted to the city by House Bill 524, Senate Bill 1434, as enacted in 2019 by the 107th General Assembly, is ready for your consideration on first reading. Will you pull that map up for me, please, sir? As mentioned, in the ordinance, House Bill 524 authorized the creation of a regional retail and tourism development district under certain terms and conditions. Highlighting those terms and conditions, the district must be within 1/2 mile of a federally designated interstate interchange. The area of the district cannot exceed 950 acres. It must lie in a location no more than 20 miles from two state lines as measured in a straight line. The Boones Creek exit or exit 17 on I-26 is the only location that meets all of those criteria. On the map before you, use the properties within the orange ring that happen to also be colored, what color shall we call that, Mayor? I don't see colors real well.
Dark pink.
We'll call it pink.
More of a magenta.
Are the properties proposed to be included in this district? So yes, you can see there are a number of parcels there that are proposed to be included within the district. I would highlight to you that this is not a land use ordinance or map. It is not any sort of zoning issue. It has nothing to do with annexation. This is merely setting the boundaries of the zone that contains the properties that are eligible for a state incentive for retail and tourism development. So only properties that are in the city are eligible for the state monies. There are several properties located within that district that are shown that are not currently in the city. In order for those properties to be eligible for the state incentive, they will have to be annexed into the city to become eligible, because the district applies only to properties within the city. What happens with the incentives? The state also added requirements that in order for this district to be approved, it's got to be approved by economic and development at the state. It's also got to be approved by the Department of Revenue at the state. I have spent the last 6 or 8 weeks or so working with the Department of Revenue to have them review this map in advance of moving this ordinance forward, to ensure that what we presented to them for approval would meet all the criteria. We learned early this week that the map does meet all of the criteria of the statute as written. So you are now required to pass an ordinance, which in our case is 3 readings of creating this district, and then we will make the formal submission to the state for their final approval. The other criteria associated with the developments within this district, it must be a project that has at minimum a $20 million investment to create. It's got to attract 1 million visitors a year, and it's also got to generate $2 million a year in state sales taxes. The agreement for the incentive will be between the City of Johnson City and the State of Tennessee. The incentive money that is available is 5 of the 7% of the state sales tax. So the state has reserved 2% of their 7% for their use. One of those goes to education, and the other one goes to the general fund. So that leaves the 5% of the state share of the sales tax that will be available for the economic incentive. This has no impact on local option sales tax as far as incentive money. The money will come to us when all the criteria are met with the development. We will then need to enter into development agreements with the different developers that will propose projects here, and we will be dealing with those on a case-by-case basis as to the terms and conditions of the proposed developments within the district. So there's no cost to us. The state pays 100% of the incentive, and what we gain from that will be increased sales and property taxes and new jobs as a result of the new development and the new economic activity that will happen within that zone. That is the highlights and pretty much the details of the agreement with the state, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, I have some, so let's go ahead and take
I
a
need
one
to
at a time.
disclose that I own property within the footprint of this district, but it's not property that would stand to participate in any retail or tourism. It's already being used for what it's being used for.
Yes.
So, but I just want to make clear that I do own
And that brings up
property.
one other clarification that I would like to make. The money available for the incentive is the sales tax incremental gain from this district. So if that district is generating $5 in state sales tax today, and after the development, it's generating $10 in state sales tax, only $5 would be available for the incentive. It's only the incremental gain that's available for the incentive package.
Just maybe a comment, make sure I understand this correctly. This designation does in no way change the laws and ordinances about annexation or zoning or any of those things. Is that accurate?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so any annexation would be under the law where it's the owner's request.
The only way property can be annexed is by owner request. That is correct, sir.
And those will be considered parcel by parcel as they would come, as would any development incentive.
We would process requests for annexation as we would anywhere adjoining our corporate boundaries.
The orange circle is the circle that I'm assuming meets the criteria.
Yes, ma'am, and let me give you a little more.
Okay.
This crosshatched area is what is defined as the interchange. So the interchange is not a single point. It's from the end of the ramp to the end of the ramp on both intersecting roadways. This line is 1/2 mile from some point on that interchange, or that interchange.
So there's some of the property that's outside of that line, but there's some portion of that property that is on the line or inside of it.
This piece, for example.
Okay.
Part of this piece of property is within the 1/2 mile, and the state has determined that as so long as there is a part of a parcel within that 1/2 mile, that the whole parcel would be considered eligible for the incentive in the district. But you got to keep in mind, the whole area cannot exceed 950 acres. What you see highlighted here is 938 acres.
So there's some property in there that's not the dark pink. Why are those left out?
That's the cemetery, so we're pretty sure that that's going to stay as is. Multifamily.
It's not going to generate many tourist dollars.
Multifamily, a lot of this is right away. That's multifamily. This is residential up along Bark Green. So it's highly unlikely those uses will ever change. So in order to maximize the area of potential productive property, we excluded those areas that we didn't see a change in use forthcoming.
So just want to make crystal clear to people who may be property owners out there. They may have a plan for developing some of their property, but they realize they can't meet the criteria of visitors and sales tax generated. They have something totally different in mind. It's just the incentive wouldn't apply to them. They can do whatever they want to with their property as long as it fits the zoning.
The property owners may continue to use their property as they see fit, so long as it meets the current laws and ordinances dealing with land use. As a point of clarification, the total investment in the zone and the total number of visitors in the zone, it's not a per parcel. Each parcel doesn't have to have 1 million visitors a year and generate $2 million a year in state sales taxes. The cumulative total of what is in the zone must cross those thresholds. So if you have one development that hits all the criteria, then all the other parcels in there have already met the eligibility requirements for the incentives due to the fact that they're included in the zone.
So people aren't nervous that may be watching this who own property there that's in the county. If they're not applying for any incentive, they don't have to request annexation by the city. This is not an annexation grab at all.
This has nothing to do with annexation. If all the property owners within that district decide they're not interested and they want to raise cattle on that 938 acres, they're certainly free to do so. This is an opportunity for people to take advantage of a state incentive to do retail and recreational activities on their property if they want to. And if you want to keep raising cattle, that's perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And no one is proposing any sort of land use change or annexation just because we're establishing this district.
So many people have heard about one possible development. It's been in the paper and covered quite a bit. But there may be multiple developers out in that area. It's not just one group who's doing
I
this.
feel sure that there will be multiple developments. I've talked to at least 3 or 4 different people about proposed developments in that area. You know, whether or not they'll come to fruition, I don't know, but they certainly have the incentive package available to them.
So right now, we will vote on it tonight, then 2 more readings, and then it'll go to the comptroller and to...
It'll go to the Commissioner of Revenue for final approval. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners? Any other
Move to
questions?
approve.
All right.
Second.
Any other questions? Thank you. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next order of business is a resolution to annex certain properties located at 3621 and 3539 West Walnut Street, known as the Landy Midway Annexation. A resolution to annex certain properties located within the 8th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, adjoining the present corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee. Said properties being known as the Landy Midway Annexation, to zone said properties R3 Medium Density Residential District as described herein, and to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee accordingly, being a part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, is ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing.
Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. I'll make a brief presentation. Understand that Mr. Bernard gave a more detailed, excellent presentation for first reading. Just want to provide you a couple of reminder notes. The property today is vacant. It is roughly 6.5 acres, and you'll see it sits here along the south margin of West Walnut Street. This is the property outlined in blue. You'll see that to the south, property that is currently zoned R2 is already in the city, as well as property immediately to the east, which is currently zoned R4. In terms of the annexation policy, all legal requirements and due process have been met. If the property is annexed, there's an estimated annual revenue of $17,886 based on the proposed development, which is 40 dwelling units. This would be an infill development, and it is consistent with the adopted land use policies and plan. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their November 12th meeting, and they approve or recommend approval of the annexation. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Are there any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? None? Okay. I will open the public hearing, and if the applicant is here, we will allow you time to go over your presentation, or if there's any other information you would like for the commission to know about, you can come forward. And if you would state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Scott Landy. I live at 114 Quail Creek Court in Jonesboro, Tennessee. I'm the property owner as well as I'll be the future developer. I think the city has done a really good job explaining it at the first reading, obviously at the Planning Commission meeting as well. I'm planning on developing and putting in place 40 units on that tract of land. Spent some considerable amount of time working with the neighbors as well. Had a couple meetings, and we made some changes to our plans and hopefully accommodated their needs as well.
Any other questions of the applicant? You were at the Planning Commission, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Landy.
you.
Okay. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this this annexation? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second, and just a comment, just in representing the Planning Commission, I think this was a good example of Mr. Landy taking into consideration the neighbors' needs and concerns and went back and made some significant changes in the plan. So he's to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landy, thank you. All right, there's a motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Now, is this still the Sam Landy Midway annexation?
The next item?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Ordinance 4716-19, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith and amendatory thereof by assigning R3 medium-density residential to certain properties within the 8th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, known as the Landy Midway Annexation, is ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing.
Mr. Mitchell?
On this particular piece of the annexation, the only thing I'd like to add is that staff and the Planning Commission recommend approval of the R3. We believe that the R3 is consistent with the development pattern in this area. It also acts as a transitional zone from the R4 down to the R2, which is lower density, further to the south, based on the development proposal and access being only off of Walnut Street. Again, staff and the Planning Commission were supportive of that proposal. And again, I would add, based on what Commissioner Calhoun noted and what was noted during the Planning Commission meeting, is that the developer held several voluntary meetings with the surrounding neighborhood and worked to meet their concerns. Sometimes that's hard to have everyone come on board, but there were changes that were made. He made changes to the development itself, to the design, changed from a private road to a public street, and even changed his rezoning or the ordinance request from R4 down to R3. So concessions were made, and the recommendation is to approve.
Very much. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the zoning of R3?
I'm obviously.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next order of business is to consider the plan of services to provide city services to the Landy Midway annexation, and there is a public hearing on this plan of services.
Mitchell?
Only thing to add on this is that water and sewer would be extended to the property. Of course, all other municipal services would be provided upon annexation. And as noted, the estimated property tax, if the development goes through as expected, would be roughly $17,800 annually. Thank you.
I will open the public hearing on the plan of services for the Landy annexation. Anyone to speak for or against? Okay. All right. No one else? I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next item is consideration of a resolution to annex certain property along Booth Station Road, known as the Chestnut Cove Annexation. A resolution to annex a portion of certain property located within the 11th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, adjoining the present corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, said property being known as the Chestnut Cove Annexation. To zone said property RP2, planned residential as described herein, and to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee accordingly, being a part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, is ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing.
Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Peterson, before you is a request to annex 16.59 acres of property on Boone Station Road. Properties being, the owners requested the annexation, and the property adjoins the city limits. As part of the annexation, the city is also proposing to annex approximately 873 linear feet of road to prevent the situation you have now where you go from the city road into the county and then back into a city road again. So we're going to propose and annex that road, 873 feet of that road. Estimated annual property tax is $88,640.24. This was based off of 51 single-family unit development. City water is currently available to the property. City will extend sewer service to the property by the time the first house in the proposed subdivision, after approval of the final plat by the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission, obtains a certificate of occupancy. Inside city rates will be available once the sewer service is operational. The applicants requested RP2 planned residential zoning. This is consistent with existing zoning districts and is consistent with the future land use plan. The Johnson City Regional Planning Commission recommended approval of the annexation, the plan of services, and the assignment of the RP2 zoning at its November 12, 2019 meeting.
Any questions of staff before we move to public hearing? Okay, thank you, sir. I will open the public hearing. Is the developer or applicant here who would like to come forward and provide some information on the development? Okay. Is there anyone who is here to speak for or against this annexation request? All right, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, it's a motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next is ordinance 4717-19. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by assigning RP2 planned residential district to certain property within the 11th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, known as the Chestnut Cove Annexation, is ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing. This will be assigning the zoning of RP2.
We're good there. I will just open the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak for or against the zoning of this request? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next item is consideration of the plan of services for Chestnut Cove Annexation after public hearing.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing on the plan of services for this annexation request. Is there anyone to speak for or against? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next is ordinance number 4718-19. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by changing from B4 Arterial Business District to R4 Medium Density Residential District, a portion of certain property located at 4835 North Rome Street, is ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing.
This is a request to rezone 4.05 acres of property from B4 planned arterial business to R4 medium density residential at the intersection of Hammett Road and North Rome Street. The applicants request an R4 zoning to construct 10 single-family homes. Future land use plan calls for commercial development along this section of the corridor. However, it's sound land use planning to locate commercial development at key intersections with residential development occurring between these commercial nodes. And in fact, that's how developments occurred along this section of the corridor. Here to the north of the subject property of the intersection of North Rome Street and Rockingham Road, where you have commercial and institutional development. And down to the south of the subject property, you have commercial development located at North Roan Street and Boone's Creek Road at that intersection, with residential development between these intersections, both multifamily and single-family. And subject property adjoins current R4 zoning. Concept plan calls for the construction of 10 single-family homes to be accessed by a lane during this phase of the construction. It meets all requirements of the concept plan. Planning Commission recommended approval of the B4 to R4, the rezoning from B4 to R4, and approval of the concept plan. It's November 12th, 2019 meeting.
Commissioners, any other questions of staff?
Just one, just to make sure, I think I asked this at the Planning Commission, there is no entry onto the Kingsport Highway, North Roan Street.
That's correct. No entrance from North Roan Street. The entrance will be from this off of Roan Street onto Hammett Road, and the properties will abut this lane, and that's how they'll receive their access. No entrance onto North Roan Street.
Thank you.
Okay.
To avoid the appearance of a conflict, I'm going to recuse myself on this
Okay.
vote.
All right. Be good. Do me then. Okay. I will open the public hearing. Is the developer here who would like to provide more information on the project?
My name's Tim Carter. I live at 116 Stonehenge Drive, Bristol, Tennessee. This is just a continuation. This is Phase 3A of what we've been doing at this property. Phase 1 was a 12-lot subdivision, and as we did that, we've acquired more and more land, and, you know, we're wearing you out. I know we rezoned it 3 times, but it's sort of a process that we've gone through. But this was just a continuation of what we've done out there so far. We've finished and completed and sold 34 lots that will be houses in the $200,000 to $250,000 range, and I anticipate these to be the same thing.
And it's a down zoning, so.
Yes.
It's gonna go from
Any
before.
questions, I'll be glad to
Right.
answer.
Any other questions? Mr. Carter? Did I open the public hearing? I think I did.
I think you did, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this project? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
Move to approve.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? Oh, I'll have to second. Oh, sorry about that. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Abstain.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next item is ordinance 4719-19. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by changing from B4 Planned Arterial Business District to R5 High Density Residential District, a portion of certain property located at 1077 West Oakland Avenue. It's ready for your consideration on second reading after public hearing.
Hassan?
Mayor, Commissioners, this is a request to rezone the southerly portion of a piece of property along West Oakland Avenue. The developer proposes to use this property to construct a 103-unit senior living facility. As you see, although the future land use map designates this area for commercial development, it has essentially developed in a multi-family residential fashion, with multi-family development both to the north, to the south, and to the west of the property. Consequently, this development will be in line with the surrounding multi-family development character of the area. Back in 1998, the city completed a transportation study along this corridor, which recommended that improvements be made on this section of the road whenever we have these multi-family residential developments or commercial developments. Consequently, the city has been using that plan to make improvements along this corridor whenever such uses are proposed. The engineering division has worked with the developer and what will be the improvement that will be made to accommodate this development will include adding a turn lane on the center of this road. This is a rendering of how the site is going to look like. This is a similar facility that they have, I think, in Maryville here in the state. The concept plan meets all the requirements for the concept plan as stipulated in the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission at its meeting on November 12 recommended that you approve the rezoning based on the increasing demand for these houses in the city. This will be downzoning, and as such, the transportation impact will be less, and the development will be compatible with the surrounding land uses. The Planning Commission also recommended that you approve the concept plan as presented.
Good, thank you. Any other questions of Hassan? Thank you very much. I will open the public hearing and invite the petitioner if they would like to say anything about the rezoning request.
My name is,
Yeah,
my name's Rick Gentry. I represent the applicant.
okay.
This is the fourth one that I'm doing with him, so if you have any questions, I can.
Anybody have any questions of the applicant? All right, well, thank you for coming up. Is there anyone else to speak for or against the rezoning? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Next order of business is ordinance number 4721-19. An ordinance to amend Title III, Chapter 4, Section 3-4032, and repeal and amend Title III, Chapter 4, Section 3-4036 of the Code of the City of Johnson City to revise the clerk of the juvenile court, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, is ready for your consideration on second reading.
We had a good discussion about this last meeting. Is there a motion?
There's second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other questions, Mr. Peterson? Okay, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Your next order of business is to consider approval of a financial assistance to the Boone Lake Association for the purchase of mechanical skimmers and associated equipment. The cost of the skimmer and the equipment is $125,000. The request to the city is for $62,500. To date, the Washington County Commission has approved paying $40,000 in this fiscal year and a promise to pay $22,500 in the upcoming fiscal year. We would recommend your approval of the funding request, as Boone Lake is one of our premier outdoor recreation facilities, especially in Johnson City, but also in the region. And the Boone Lake Property Owners Association and Mr. McKee deserve a huge amount of credit for all the volunteer hours and the money they've expended on the lake to keep it as clean as it is. And
I would like to express support for that by making a motion to approve the request.
I'll second that, please.
We may not need a full presentation at all here. It looks like we're going to be in support of it. I'm as well, because in understanding the way TVA will raise the lake, that it could take, a couple of years before it becomes safe because of all the floating debris. And what you're proposing is to be able to buy the equipment that can take care of it as it's beginning to come up.
That is correct.
And get it off the lake, and therefore returning the lake to full recreational use in a much quicker time.
We would hope that's
And
that is the objective. We would hope that turns out to be the case.
That's good for everyone. And so with our full funding of your request, and I know you're going to be going to Sullivan County for some additional to get 2 of these devices to be able to use on the lake, it will give you all a chance to get it and start training and learning, on how to use it. So have I kind of said that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I would just like to correct one thing, and we've worked very diligently to do this, that I know the origin of the Boone Lake Association was a collection of property owners. We've morphed into something that's much bigger and more regional, and I'll just quote you a couple of numbers real quickly. The use days out on the lake now are about 10,000 from property owners, almost 40,000 each from out of area, people that come into the area, speaking to the idea that the lake is a valuable regional asset, and about 40,000 use days per year of local Washington, Sullivan County residents. So it's more than a lot of people realize, and that's been part of our process, is to try to do some education.
That's when it's at full use, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah,
That's at
right,
full use,
right.
yeah.
Do you know what it's getting now? Any
We
idea?
anticipate that the curtain wall will be finished in the spring of 2021. TVA will start to fill the lake during the latter part of 2021, testing, bringing it up, bringing it down, and we anticipate in the spring of 2022, we'll get back to a normal full pool cycle. We believe that that's fair and accurate, given our conversations with TVA.
Well, as we take our vote in just a minute, I would like to throw the challenge out to our sister municipalities and counties to get behind this project, because I think it's going to benefit all of us. So
We have spoken to Mayor Venable. We've hopefully gotten some direction the way he would like to see this go, transit through his government agencies there. We're working on it as diligently as we worked on the Watauga side of the river.
well, we appreciate everything the Boone Lake Association's done over many, many years, keeping this resource so in such great shape.
Great, appreciate it
Worked
very
hard
much.
out there. So,
We're very thankful.
Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Before I vote, Mayor, can we make sure that Mr. McKee will not be operating any of this equipment himself? Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
He's too busy driving the train.
Mr. McKee, we want to thank you too. We know how much of your heart and soul you've put into everything out at the lake and what you're doing here. And I think this is just this is a great use of resources that'll have a return on investment that's going to be much greater than this. So thank you.
It's quite substantial, we
Very
believe. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Great job. Under the manager's report, I would, excuse me.
I'm going to go ahead and do the public input if
Sure.
you don't mind.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we can spend more time. So we have one request for public input. I'm going to bring it before the manager's report, and this is Mr. Rob Martindale, who would like to come and speak to us, and the topic is the West Walnut Street plan. So, Mr. Martindale, if you would come forward.
First, I'd like to thank Mayor Brock, Commissioner Calhoun, and Commissioner Fowler, who's not here, for personally responding to my inquiries about this project. I appreciate those callbacks. Those were very well received. I guess my primary concern is the strong possibility of the increased traffic from the historically commercial road to a road that has always been residential. The prevention of vehicles from turning left onto University Parkway will inevitably lead to most of these same vehicles cutting through the neighborhood to continue in that direction. Last Thursday, I just did a little personal count. 44 vehicles were turning left off of Walnut onto University Parkway intersection during a half-hour span from 4:30 to 5. I would only assume if they were going in that direction, they would be, those 44 vehicles, which included 3 commercial delivery vehicles, would go on Maple Street to make that progress. I don't know of anyone who would want that level of increased traffic in front of their homes. My second area of concern is that many drivers will choose to avoid Walnut Street corridor because of the increased traffic calming devices on Walnut and the plan presented on the public meeting at Southside 1 week ago. There are no calming devices on Walnut Street as of right now. Pushing more traffic through a residential area, which is a cut-through traffic, is already an issue. Some of the area of the neighborhoods even have calming devices, and can we look into improving those current devices or possibly adding more? Hopefully, before the Walnut Street project even starts. Finally, personally, I walked away from last week's meeting feeling, as a private citizen, a resident of the area, that was my last opportunity to voice concerns about the project and the traffic issues there that would directly affect my neighborhood and the families that live there. Overall, I feel like most of the people support the project, but hope that these areas of concern will be addressed and as a community resolved to make the project a positive for all stakeholders. And that's what I'd just like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. We appreciate any questions, Mr. Martindale, before we...
No questions, but in my conversations with Mr. Martindale, I think that we all share concerns about, traffic, and that's something that the commission has raised, and I'm sure it's going to get a lot of attention between now and before the Walnut Street project becomes a reality. So thank you.
That's what I'm hoping for. Thank you.
Definitely agree. And Mr. Peterson, is there anything you want to add in terms of timing? How far are we away from a lot of these major changes on Walnut Street, and what will transpire between now and then on traffic and, making final decisions about things?
Well, as you noted, they had the public input meeting last week. It being the holiday season, I would assume it's probably going to be February before the consultants have time to get back together after the holidays and incorporate what they heard in the public comment, and to sit down and look at some different options and bring some stuff back to us to look at in terms of addressing some of the concerns that you've pointed out. So is that pretty close, Phil? I'd say it's going to be sometime in February or early March before we'll really have something to...
They'll be designing in the traffic flow and making those kind of recommendations?
They will be taking into consideration the concerns mentioned and evaluating what will work, what won't work, and looking at some different options, yes.
Then the real crux of my question was, when are we going to see changes, actually, physical changes to the corridor that would impact traffic flow? 2 years from now?
Talking about actual construction? Best case scenario, you probably won't start construction until next August, September.
Yeah, the purpose behind the public meeting was to get the final design moving. And for everything else, that's underway, and they've been authorized to move forward with that. So if that were to follow through, we anticipate bidding in August. And then the project will take a minimum of 2 years to build. So, to address his concern and the concern of some others, we have met and we've looked at alternatives, but because that's the only place that we saw any disagreement really with the plan, that and one of the pedestrian movements over to ETSU, we're going to propose getting back with the residents on Maple Street because of all the issues, and then try to come up with something that they're satisfied with and that we're satisfied with from a community as a whole, because we do have concerns about the intersection of University Parkway. So we will be getting back. We have not notified them, but as I told them in the meeting, I would respond to every single comment, and they've provided their emails, and we'll do that. And then we'll start working to try to come up with something that everybody's happy with.
There you go. Line of communication, I guess. That's what we're looking for.
Is that good?
That sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Go Yellow Jackets.
Okay, for the manager's report, unless you've got something else, Mayor?
No, that's good. Thank you for letting us do that.
Yes, ma'am. A couple of things we've been working on. There was, within the last couple of weeks, I've been to an aerospace park meeting. Just an update on that project. That project is about the 60% completion point. Going into the winter months, they're there will be very minimal work going on out there due to the weather concerns, but that hopefully will be completed. The grading project and everything will be completed the end of 2020 calendar year. Looks like they're going to make their deadlines and everything. Along with that, last week I was asked to serve on a Northeast State Aviation Advisory Board, and we went out there to a meeting. It was representatives of business, industry, education, local government, state government. They've got a really good group involved with that. The big takeaways from that meeting is Aerospace Park will generate a whole new industry in the region that doesn't really currently exist beyond Wysong and Bell helicopters for the most part. There is a demonstrated shortage of A&P, airframe and power plant personnel in excess of 50,000 people in this country. So there's an extreme demand for that trade, that skill set. Northeast State has an aviation program in place now. They are committed to growing that. They're currently in the process of trying to hire some additional staff. Part of that process that they have begun is they currently have a airframe program in place, but it isn't currently certified by the FAA. They have applied for that certification and are anticipating receiving that certification over the next few months. In addition to that, in the spring, they have plans in place and a program in place to submit for certification from the FAA their power plant certification so that they can teach both airframe and power plant, which is exactly the FAA certifications that they need for their graduates in order for those graduates to immediately go to work in the aviation industry. So it's a very exciting time that Northeast State has been able to get the facilities and the staff and the equipment that they need to get these certifications, because that's going to be, in my opinion, one of the bigger drawing cards in developing Aerospace Park, is that you've got a workforce available and you've got an institution just on the fringes of the airfield that is training and educating your future workforce, and it will be very easy to develop a good working relationship between the employers and the educators so that they can develop the workforce that the employers really need. I really think that's the piece that's going to make Aerospace Park work, and I certainly want to recognize Dr. Flora and all the folks out at Northeast State for being able to put all that together. One of the side notes that I've learned, the Elizabethton Airport has an aviation program in the Elizabethton High School. Now they're working on teaching pilots, which is something else that the airport in Northeast State is talking about, is to get a flight school started. There's also a shortage of pilots in this country, approaching 60,000 jobs that are available today if they had people to fill them. So I think that's moving in the right direction, and I think there is some sincere interest to try to get some aviation programs established in all of the local high schools. I think there's one or two of the high schools in Sullivan County have an aviation program already up and running. So with my interest in aviation, I really look forward to talking to Dr. Barnett and see what we can get started there. It's a great field. It's good paying jobs, and there's certainly a need for it, and I think it's an opportunity for some of our young folks to develop a career at an early age. Some of the legislative things we've been working on, of course, we talked about the creation of the Boones Creek District this evening. I've spent quite a bit of time working with Revenue and ECD down in Nashville, trying to get the map that you approved this evening in order so that whatever you approved, the state could approve it. I wanted to make sure they were in good shape with that. Last week, I was in Nashville for 2 days with a group of 10 city managers, and we were talking about the upcoming legislative session and the needs that cities need to have addressed in the upcoming session. We met with the comptroller and with revenue and with TDEC. We met with the Senate Chair of State and Local Government, met with the House Speaker. So it was a very productive trip in terms of trying to establish an agenda and get a feel for where the different departments of the state think the session's going to go and what's going to be important to them to get through the session coming up. And one of the more exciting things I think is that we had an opportunity to spend a couple of hours with the lobbyist for the County Mayors Association as well as county services to identify some common points of interest and some needs that local governments have. And from that, we're going to develop a legislative packet that both cities and counties can support and go forward to the legislature. And it'll be a little unique. I'm unaware of anybody ever doing that before, but I think it will send a good message of unity that everything in the world of local government isn't always us versus them, that there's a lot of common needs in terms of local government, and it was well received on the county end. Tomorrow will be Jim Sullivan's last day as our chief building official. Jim has served us very well, has really taken us to new levels in developing people and the online permitting system and gotten us through some rocky ground, some shaky times, but Jim's been a really good employee, and we certainly hate to see him leave, but he's got some opportunities that are very lucrative for him, and he's excited about starting another page of his chapter, so we wish Jim well and success in his future endeavors. Earlier this afternoon, we met to talk about the Jonesboro School project, and I was certainly very thankful for the guidance that the commission gave me on how we can further the negotiations with Washington County and our continued attempts to avoid litigation over that matter. So thank you for the direction there, and hopefully the county mayor and I can get something worked out because it is absolutely critical that we get something before the Washington County Commission during the month of January and through their committee system so that we can get this thing resolved and move forward in the best interest of all the students in Washington County. And I would be glad to answer any questions or take whatever direction you may have. Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to all of you.
We appreciate that report, Mr. Peterson, and it will, I just have a couple of things I'd like to say because this is our last meeting of the year.
Of the decade.
Of the decade. Okay. Oh, yeah.
2020 starts a new decade.
That's right, man. You just really threw a kink in the wheel there.
Does it seem like it's been 2 decades
has.
since the clocks were going to stop and all the computers were going to crash?
That's exactly right. But this commission has been seated this entire year, so I want to say thank you to my fellow commissioners. Mr. Peterson, to you and to Ms. Jennings for sitting up here with us. We haven't had any rotten tomatoes thrown at us, so that's a good thing. We must be doing some good work. But it has been a good year. It's been a big year, and a lot of significant things have been accomplished here in Johnson City. And I know we sitting on this commission really are proud of what we've been able to do with the resources that the citizens of Johnson City entrust us to manage. And so I think to their benefit, they're seeing a return on those investments, and particularly in terms of the quality of place that we're creating here, a wonderful family-friendly city. The challenges we have ahead are the challenges of creating or attracting the opportunities for jobs for the new economy. So since we're going into a new generation that you just reminded me of, it's what are those jobs that we need to try to attract and bring here for our young people and to be able to recruit people from the outside to come. We need smart growth. And so I'm really very proud of the fact that this commission is working strategically to come up with that plan on how we can utilize the resources that we have to get us to that next level. So I want to thank you for your guidance and help there. Some of the things that, particularly since our last meeting, it's been a busy 2 weeks, but we've just wound down our sesquicentennial celebration, and we've learned a lot about ourselves and what a great city we are because we came from great roots. And the very first person who came here, that ultimately Johnson City was named after, Henry Johnson, was an entrepreneur. I mean, he came and started the businesses that other entrepreneurs followed and created the city of Johnson City. Now, the only thing we could have asked them to do a little differently, don't build Johnson City over the top of 2 creeks. That would have helped us out a lot. But we've come a long way on that. Really want to thank the employees who've gone beyond. When we came up with our slogan, Go All Out, they're the ones who put it into action, and I know are showing that every single day to our citizens. And we just saw one who's retiring tonight, who, when you listen to her history, she went all out before we even had Go All Out. So we appreciate that and the example that she set. So we want to thank all the employees, and hopefully they'll have some time over Christmas to kind of kick their feet up a little bit and rest and be with their families, and it's nice to have a little bit of time off, right, Janet? Okay, very good. So we're working on our plan. We're studying what could be happening in the future and what our real assets are that we have here in Johnson City, and they are many, but how we really leverage those so that we can be that place that people from Nashville and New York City and LA say, you know what, I heard of this little town in East Tennessee, and I think I want to move there. And I talk to those people all the time who are here. And so we're kind of hearing about a declining population in East Tennessee, but I don't think that's true. I mean, we talk to too many people who have chosen to come here. This past week, I talked to a lady from Utah because she's talking to her friend who lived here, and she said, I just decided to move, and I could not be any happier. She's been here like 8 months and is just really, really pleased with the just the environment and the culture here in Johnson City. So anyway, we want to, on behalf of the commission, and y'all jump in if you like to do that, wish everyone a Merry, Merry Christmas. Pay attention to your neighbors. Pay attention to your family members who may need a little extra help, a little extra love during this time. And so we'll wish you a Merry Christmas and good night.
May I add one thing before you close this?
Sure.
2 things, actually. For those who normally, let's see, Christmas is Wednesday.
Yes.
For those who normally have trash collection on Wednesday, we will not be running. We will be running the following Saturday. So set your cans out on Saturday this week, and the same will be true the week of New Year's. So
And expect those trucks to come early, so go ahead and put it out the night before.
that's it. Put it out the night before. And to echo your sentiments, a heartfelt thank you to our employees and wishing them a Merry Christmas and wishing Miss Jennings a happy birthday.
Well, happy
So-
birthday to you, too.
When is this? We've missed it today.
Yours is tomorrow.
Mine's tomorrow and hers is
Sunday.
Sunday.
All right.
We're the same age, aren't we?
I don't think so. I think I've got you by a few.
Not any. We're close.
But thank you, Janet. We appreciate
All
you.
right, meeting adjourned.